Yes, graduates, welcome to Hard Talk Podcast with HTK. Fasten your seatbelts. Hey, graduates, happy 2026 and welcome to your first episode of Hard Talk for the year. Yes, we are going to go into some serious topics and developments in this episode. So, of course, 2026 started off with a bit of a controversial situation happening around Markland. Now, Markland, as you know, is a Jamaican content creator who has always been all about, women's empowerment and issues. And, I talk about things about, woman for stand up to man and all them kind of things, right? Okay. He brandishes a very luxurious lifestyle, lots of traveling, high-end food, high-end fashion, you name it, he shows it. And it was such a shock to the system to hear that Markland got arrested on his way to Brazil to celebrate 2026, to ring in the New Year's. He was arrested, according to these records, for some kind of real estate fraud. And of course, there was this whole thing about an FOA, the fact that he had a warrant out for his arrest because he had a failure to attend in court. Now, I am reserving my judgment with regards to Markland. He is one of my favorite content creators, but listen, nobody is above the law. And at the end of the day, if Markland is guilty of the things that he has been, arrested for, then he's going to have to pay the price. But what is particularly strange about this case is the fact that there is no indication of an exact charge coming up yet on his court records. It seems to be some kind of sealed indictment going on. And we have seen this before when it came to Squash. It took a while for his documents to become public access. And the same thing is happening where this guy is concerned. Now, I found some different perspectives about what is happening, but I particularly want you to listen to Prince Tavon, who is, yes, a member of the Rainbow community, who has been very vocal on TikTok about what is taking place. He is giving his own 2 cents. They are not necessarily my opinion, but they're an interesting listen. Take a listen for yourself and let me know what you think about his statements in the comments.
What's up, Trat? Everything I am about to say is alleged. Even my damn name is alleged, okay? Now, a lot of y'all say Marki had a bench warrant. Yes, he had a bench warrant. A bench warrant that was issued in July 2025. And according to Marki's social media, he's been traveling state to state and out of the country. Now, what happened? Why would a bench warrant just trigger into an extradition warrant and now all of a sudden we have to get you off this flight? Mind you, you've been traveling before, out of state, out of the country. So what happened in December? Let's follow it. So Latoya Clark, guys, this is all alleged, was arrested in Florida, on fraud charges, PP loan charges. Shell companies don't have enough employees, but you're making a pay. Guys, as you can see. Now, one of the most important thing in this article is the word defendants with an S. Not just the word defendant, but with an S, defendants, which means more than one culprit. Which, pay attention, like I said, everything is a domino effect. Because what happened? You was traveling on your bench warrant. So what made this bench warrant change and now we have to get you off this flight? When pressure take pipe, eventually bust. So guys, this is all alleged. This is all alleged. This is supposed to be allegedly a ringer thing going on. But this young lady was said to be associated to Marki, co-worker of Marki, best friend of Marki client. I don't know. All I know, this young lady, Latoya Clark, is entangled with Marki, guys. Allegedly. So that is why the allegedly bench warrant just turned into an extradition warrant. Because according to his social media, he been out of state and out of the country. So some of the things you're hearing, it might make sense. Allegedly. So guys, this will be my last update until... I'm not going to say last. Because, bitch, if the tea comes in, I'm going to spill it. But for right now... This is the next side of the line, like, side high. What's going on here? Because a bench warrant turned into a extradition warrant. 2 weeks after your homegirl got arrested in Florida for the same similar charges, and you know what I'm saying? Because in Florida, if you go on the website, they tell you who naming names. They will let you know if we're gonna take a deal or not. Like, this is all public information. But for my own safety and protection, it is alleged.
So far, this has been kind of one of the most rational arguments I have heard, alleged arguments I have heard as to why it is that I am seeing no actual charges coming up on his records. Now, with regards to the lady that he referred to, LaToya Clark, now, it was the case that 6 individuals were indicted for orchestrating a wide-ranging scheme, and they fraudulently obtained more than $34 million in federal COVID-19 relief funds. Now, this included other people as well as LaToya Clark, the 39-year-old, who faced charges of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and multiple counts of wire fraud and money laundering. The federal prosecutors had alleged that between May 2020 and November 21, the defendants submitted over 90 fraudulent applications for aid through federal programs. So when he talks about defendants, it is because there were multiple people named in this case, and not necessarily because Markland was her friend, although it is not an impossible argument, because as things progress, in order to reduce time, they may have to snitch. But hey, it's alleged, right? And it's just a suspicion. And we cannot go on this as any fact because people are making up their own assumptions, trying to fill in gaps in the meantime until the indictment is released, right? So yes, there were a group of them that were arrested, with over 90 fraudulent applications for aid through federal programs, including the Paycheck Protection Program, that's the PPP, the Economic Injury Disaster Loans, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, and the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. So they did all these applications. They included falsified IRS tax documents, fabricated bank statements, and misrepresented employee numbers, payroll costs, and business revenues. Big fraud, big dirty fraud, people. Now, each of the defendants, including LaToya, faces up to 20 years in prison for each wire fraud count and up to 10 years for each money laundering count. We're talking about a long ass time in jail, okay? They're not coming out for a while, yeah? So, as I said, it is not an impossible argument given the fact that Markland was in association with this lady. But we don't know how deep that friendship went, and whether or not they shared some of their strategies with Marki. So once again, this is an assumption, and it's just the internet giving its opinions and thoughts on the situation. Now, before you all come for me about why it is I'm sharing this when I haven't confirmed anything, it is a trending topic and people are going to talk about it, okay? So don't get up in your feelings. I'm pretty certain that Markland would not be up in his feelings, considering that he himself had a lot to say about that young lady that unalived that other young woman, and ended up going to jail for it. He was very vocal on that. We can be very vocal on this. So yeah, this is the situation that I wanted to share with you. Now, I also wanted to share this clip because I found that this lady, she was very credible, and she was sharing some vital information about why it is that she can't find any charges, any federal charges against Marki's name. Take a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, Markland is not facing federal charges and he's not being deported, at least not at this time. For those of you who don't know Markland, he is a Jamaican influencer currently residing somewhere in the United States, I'm assuming in Atlanta, and he's extremely funny. He is a proud gay man who often empowers women and very positive online, and he lives a very posh lifestyle, dressed for the gods and travels a lot, and he posts mostly about his lifestyle. But as far as the information that is available, I know there's a lot of false narratives being pushed online by other online influencers, but let me put you guys on to game. If you have access to Pacer, that's Pacer, it is a public platform. You do have to pay for it. It allows you access to federal court records as long as it's not sealed. I did a search on Pacer for Marki, using his real name, which I believe is Jovian Markland. No results were found. I checked the Department of Justice website, which is where you would find news release about newly filed federal cases. Nothing was found for Marki. The only thing that I did locate as far as an open court case was in Fulton County, Georgia, related to some real estate property. It looks like an apartment complex of some sort versus Marki. That is not a federal case. So for those of you who don't know, whenever you're looking at a court document at the very top, how to easily tell if it's a federal case versus a civil case. A federal case always will say the United States versus whoever the charges are against. In a state case, a criminal state case, it will say the state of, for instance, Marki lives in Georgia. It will say the state of Georgia versus Jovian Markland. I didn't find a state case or a federal case, any criminal cases pending for Marki. There's not to say that there couldn't be an investigation going on, but there's no official charges filed. What I did locate was a civil matter, meaning they're seeking punitive damages, money owed to them, and it looks like an apartment complex versus Marki and others. And people are running saying it's real estate fraud. I didn't see that. If you want to comment below and direct me to where you can find that information. And he had a hearing notice sent out to him. For those who don't know, whenever there's a hearing for any case, civil, criminal, federal, or state, the court is required to send out a notice in the mail notifying you that there is a case with a hearing coming up and you're required to attend. So apparently one was sent out in mid-July and Marki didn't appear. Now, even though this is a civil case, the judge still has the authority to... Why is my filter messing up now? Let me change this lighting. The judge still has legal grounds to issue a bench warrant. A bench warrant is when you don't appear for a court hearing. And if you get pulled over or stopped, you can be detained, arrested, until you appear before the judge, and the judge will then lift the warrant. And a lot of judges do not like to be disrespected, as you can imagine. So if you miss a court date, in many cases, in civil cases, they would just ask for a continuance if you have an attorney, that is. They mean just request a new date. But it seems to me Marki travels so much. If you go on his social media page and you see his highlights, in July, Marki was all over the world. He's hardly home, so I'm assuming maybe he didn't get the notice in the mail. But he knows that there's an open case. It's a civil case, so he may have not taken it seriously. I know that he recently moved out and bought a house. So I don't know if the apartment that he was renting, that he just did not pay the rent because he's moving out. A lot of people do that. And he probably thought it wouldn't matter because he's no longer on the property, so there's nothing for them to possess. But either way, he needed to show up to court and explain that. So with the new laws that are being passed now, well, I don't know if it's official law, but there's new policies and procedures that are going on with travelers at the airport in efforts to crack down on illegal immigration is what they're saying. So typically travelers that are traveling domestically aren't they don't normally check them for warrants, not unless you are a high profile criminal or you did something really crazy and you're on the run. They'll flag you as a no-fly zone. But lately, what's been happening is TSA, Homeland Security, and a lot of law enforcement agencies are sharing information more now than ever. And especially those who don't hold a U.S. passport. To my knowledge, I don't think Marki's a U.S. citizen yet. I think he might just be a green card holder. And that new policy just began, I believe, I want to say late November, early December. So what I am speculating, I don't know the facts, but based on everything I'm seeing, the only open court case he has is out of Fulton County, Georgia. It's a civil matter. He missed the court date, and the judge issued a warrant for his arrest. And he was traveling from New York to Brazil for that New Year's Eve party that we all see all over online. I'm thinking they saw the warrant and flagged it, and based on this new policy, they were required to pull him and detain him because, that's how it works. So typically, people aren't checked for warrants leaving the country, unless you're a high-profile murderer or something. They usually check coming back in. They usually check when you're coming back in. But with the new policy, they're checking you going out and coming in. So if you know you have warrants or legal troubles, you might want to double check before traveling. So I'm assuming that's what happened. And the reason why people are saying federal is because the airport is federal jurisdiction. So if he's detained at the airport, it will be by a federal officer. So if you look it up, I believe a few blogs have posted it. It literally says right there, no charges. It's just a FAO warrant, meaning a fugitive out of state. He's an out of state fugitive. And the reason why he has no bail, but when you have a warrant, you don't get a bail. You are detained until you go before the judge. So because he got detained in New York, he has to wait for extradition to Georgia where the case is. And it kind of sucks because it happened during the holiday season where a lot of people are on vacation and things are taking a lot longer. So his next court date to appear before the judge is January 13th. And I'm not sure, maybe that's the extradition hearing. For his sake, I hope that's the hearing in Georgia so he can get it taken care of. And they probably feel like that's the only way to get him into court because he's always traveling. But if you ask me, they're doing the most. Now, there's other speculations going on about drug trafficking and CPN fraud. I didn't see any of that. Now, if there's an investigation going on in hopes to indict him on said charges, that would not be public record. I wouldn't see that.
Now, one thing is for certain, I completely agree with her. I have not seen any evidence of this, what they call real estate fraud or any kind of narcotics related inquiries. I see none of that when I look on the New York State Unified Court System. It is literally giving you a blank when it comes to the reason for his arrest. But once again, it seems to be a sealed indictment, which is probably why you can't see much. And I haven't paid for Pacer because why? Yeah, this is going to upload an update, no doubt, after the 13th of January, which is his next court appearance at the Queen's Criminal Court. So my suggestion to everybody is to load the thing and let everything come out, which is factual. There's a lot of speculation. I understand the excitement, but there's not much else that can come out of this other than people making assumptions. And this is where we're going to draw the line. Okay. Now, let us move on to the situation with the 4-year-old whose death is now being blamed on security forces by the shadow minister. The 4-year-old was killed as a result of a alleged shootout between members of the security forces and gunmen in Granville, St. James on New Year's Day. Now, the circumstances surrounding the operation, which occurred in the Browns Lane area of the community, have raised questions and prompted protests from the residents. The police has reported that 2 men were fatally shot and a high-powered rifle was seized during the operation. It was also reported that a 68-year-old woman was wounded in the incident. Now, the shadow minister said that while the PNP acknowledges the difficult and dangerous conditions under which the law enforcement operates, particularly during the New Year period, the death of the child demands careful scrutiny and a clear accounting of what transpired. I'm going to let you listen to a clip from the mother of the 4-year-old boy. Boy, people, I don't know what to say. I am hearing mixed debates going on social media. But before we get into my analysis, just listen to what the mother has to say.
Nobody know information. I only talk to Indicom when Indicom come. Nobody not serve for nobody and they not feel nobody pay their stuff. Okay, they don't know brown man.
No one in here know what to say.
No, that me I say no, they no sir, and no baby then come back. A road where black then come back. No baby then come back, and baby dead there so. Baby no dead there so. Wickedness. You want to say baby get shot. Why take out town up? Why take out town up in baby get shot? Why take out town up in just alright, easy and go in there, open the door and take out the baby. And then already a woman baby dead, 4-year-old, dead, lifeless. Just because of bulliness and the use of no job description and fight don't get up here. I mean, if I don't shot him and kill him, shot him.
Yes, if the shot never dead, whole went before he reached up in my room. We're not dead because he here. Me feel when the shot lick me and me cry out, say me dead, me dead. And my granddaughter jump off of the bed. The little granddaughter, I don't make her no talk to her. But he up and auntie, we'd have to go up on the road. The picture of baby in my daughter's phone.
Yeah, you know.
So me have to go get me little granddaughter because she can tell everything. She a 10-year-old.
So, what time this happened last night? You know what time this happened?
After 12, they go to 1. After then, they say then they do gun salute. And they put me here when I time in and me sleep. And me here when the gunshot. And me take the daughter say, here and now. And she get up and rush out to go lock the gate. And he hear the barrage a shot him and he run coming back and we lie down. And when we lie down there, we hear the first shot licking at the house. And we cry out, say, me baby in here and me baby. And the soldier said, no come out here. Go suck you and go back in so dirty girl, where you there come out go. Let out the gunman for out of the house. Let him out, he in there, let them out. All we they tell them, say, we alone live there. The oldest person did there as boy, and my bigger grandson, him at 15. And if him was there, they would have shoot him and put gun on him. Yes. Me don't know some me don't expect this. The mother traumatized her till she dey run out in her so underwear because she went have one towel around her.
So how did you got shot? Where you were when you got shot?
When lay down. And the shot come through the board, run on my daughter part and come through to me part. And me jump off my bed and hold me head and say, me dead now, me dead. And the soldier then do the shooting and no police. Me swear upon my life. One big stout black one have a mask. And if you just listen when the lady ball out and say, no, shoot. The baby will not get shot. But he just feels enough. Listen.
I gunshot, jump him up out times.
I can run and I gun too.
Really mother get shot in Grange in
What kind of art? And then nobody, none of them, one of them not tell me. I will me a lift up the baby. Me a lift up the baby. They go cheat yet. On still a fire, not one of them, not one of the soldiers when I turn back and say, alright, me look what the baby, I two police them alone, two police them say, yeah, they say they have picked me too. And they can't watch the baby dead in their own.
So them run with the baby?
Yeah, yes, when we said, they said, I did them picture back the baby life would have come back. That yeah, what me tell you, when they say when the police, when they reach right down the sun, between Granville and Tucker, the police pray with me and hold me and mommy, hold it. That's when we go, that's when we reach up the hospital and me drop and lick my head. He come and he say, mommy, he open up his eye, you know, but it look like he not going to make you. I say, you sure what you say, officer? And then he go and then he come back with the two dead body them, panic jump up. And when he come, he say, mommy, baby dead, I know, you know. He say, you sure? I asked him 3 times if he's sure. He said, when the next time over at daytime, he never met me. And same time he start crying. And me start crying. And he said, mommy, you go give me your phone number. I go come look for you. Because I feel it. It's a nice little baby. Dead. Last time I see police, me tell him 1,000,000 times. Wind up for me. Because they did.
They have your number, you say, we call you.
Yeah. If me see him right now, me tell him 1,000,000 thanks. To wind up for me.
So,
because no soldier, nobody no look for me.
Some of them just think they got dog shit then.
None of them no look for me, but you see these two police who don't mind me see them right now.
Alright.
I tell them many thanks.
As part of our responsibility, we assist the process of the grieving to the Community Safety and Security Department. So if you are willing, I can take your number too, and then we can stay in touch and we take it from you. Are you willing to give us your number too? If you're so willing, then as a part of what we do to contact victim services.
You know, live this 5-year old birthday next week.
Next week?
Oh God, man. This baby say I want one bicycle, but he go buy me bicycle for my birthday. And they tell me what I want for my birthday. I love my baby, I love him endlessly. Everywhere I'm your daddy boy there.
Hello.
But strong.
No.
But I would love daddy boy there endlessly.
No, we can't say no, but me happy still tell us that.
Hey, no, I'm not think they walk me.
Because it's strong for your daughter. That is something we have to do.
Be a daddy boy there watch me. When me they go and me and say me I go let you ball. You want to come behind us. Me if in the sleep or me not sleep. He not sleep. Anyway, me go in the world and come back and about 10, 1 o'clock in the night. He sit down and hang for me till me come. That's how I feel it to the heart and the soul.
Very sad and very tragic indeed. Now, according to the JCF, They're explaining that the shooting took place shortly after midnight on Thursday, the 1st of January, and members of the security forces acted on intelligence and reports of illegal gun salutes, despite repeated public warnings against the practice. Now, members of a joint police military team responded to reports of explosions and gunfire in the Browns Lane area of Granville, St. James. According to the police, preliminary information indicated that a group of individuals had gathered in the community and were in possession of prohibited firearms and allegedly with the intention of conducting illegal gun salutes. Later, upon arrival, the security forces came under gunfire from armed individuals in the area. The team then took evasive action and returned fire. When the situation was brought under control, 2 men were found with what appeared to be gunshot wounds and were later pronounced dead on arrival at hospital. During the incident, a 4-year-old child sustained gunshot injuries and later succumbed to these injuries while receiving medical treatment. A 68-year-old woman was also injured and treated. Now, according to the JCF, investigations are still ongoing, and this includes probes to the relevant oversight bodies and the circumstances surrounding the incident. Now, people, as I said, I heard a lot of debates going on social media about this, and this is my 2 cents. While I can understand that soldiers were involved here, I'm noticing that the JCF seems to be stepping forward ahead of the soldiers, and the Jamaica Constabulary Force training is very different from the training of army officials, right? Now, I don't know why that is, because no doubt they would have rallied together in order to tackle the situation that was going on in this community. But my thing is this: you enter into an environment where civilians exist, and therefore your priority should always be to protect the innocent. Now, I can understand that the Jamaica Constabulary Force may be more sensitized to that than army, military, because at the end of the day, they are trained to kill and destroy. Yeah, once you're an enemy, you go down. You understand? And in the end, if they are being shot at, you cannot expect them to simply, become under attack, lose them life, and all of them kind of thing there. These so-called gunmen were the first at fault to go into the community where there are vulnerable people. Them should have run through no house. Them should have run through no yard. Because you're putting innocent bystanders at risk for your own slackness. So I'm not defending none of these men and what resulted. Because at the end of the day, when they're saying in the community that nothing never depend on them, but yet the police are saying that they found high-powered weaponry and they were acting on intelligence. Somebody called them into the area and made a report because they were not feeling safe. All right, rest that aside though. You come into a yard where there are houses, where there are civilians, and possibly, highly likely, children. You cannot just start to shoot like that. Now, is it that the gunman ran into the room where the baby was? These are the questions I'm asking. And why would the gunman do that? Is it that the gunman knew this family? They were friends, they were associates, or what? How them end up in the people in the yard? And then now, how can you shoot so indiscriminately that you end up taking the life of a 4-year-old child? Of course, forensics need to take place. Ballistics, more importantly, need to take place. Whose bullet hit the baby, and so on and so forth. All of this needs to take place. So before I start to point a finger at blame, I'm going to wait until this information is made public before I necessarily come down 100% on the soldier. But either way you take it, training needs to be addressed in terms of how to handle situations like this. This may have been a case of let the people them go until another time you come back and do your investigation because the risks of collateral damage was too high. It may not be sensible to act at that moment, and it also was about the fact that you were shooting without full visual of who was at risk. But God knows, people, we are often too many times hearing about communities who safeguard these dangerous men. And I am not necessarily saying that this woman was one such person. But oftentimes the connections between them and these men that carry illegal arms supersedes rational and common sense. And really and truly, I know that it's often because they feel fear and they don't really have much choice. They're afraid for run them and so on and so forth, right? So them play the part. But you see the risks of all of this now. Look at this beautiful child. Life taken just like that. These people need to stay away from vulnerable individuals who have nothing to do with their actions, their wrong choices in life. Because when you were escaping from the JCF and from the soldiers, you should never have entered into that premises where you know innocent people abide. So let us go into this Maduro situation real quick. There are currently allegations that Caribbean politicians were corrupted by cocaine traffickers, and that has sent shockwaves across the region following the dramatic arrest of the Venezuelan president Nicolas Maduro and his wife. In a sweeping 700-page indictment filed in New York, claims that traffickers paid off officials along the Caribbean route to secure protection and political favors, enabling cocaine shipments from Venezuela to move north towards the United States with impunity. According to the prosecutors, these payments helped politicians maintain and expand their power, embedding narco-corruption deep within regional institutions. The indictment paints a picture of vast trafficking networks stretching from Colombia's producers to Venezuelan transporters, Caribbean intermediaries, and distributors in Central America and Mexico. At every stage, traffickers allegedly enriched themselves and their political allies, undermining governance and fueling instability across the hemisphere. Officials in Honduras, Guatemala, and Mexico are accused of accepting bribes to protect traffickers, highlighting the scale of corruption tied to Maduro's regime. The indictment accuses Maduro and the Vice President, Diosdado Cabello Rondon, former Interior Minister Ramon Rodriguez, Chacin, Flores, and Maduro's son, of conspiring to import thousands of tons of cocaine into the United States. The indictment also names the leader of Venezuela's feared prison gang, Tren de Aragua, as a co-conspirator. It details how Maduro, while serving as foreign minister between 2006 and 2008, issued diplomatic passports to traffickers, allowing the shipments of the white powder to pass undetected. It further explains that the defendants allegedly used the state apparatus to facilitate massive drug trafficking and terrorism, that their actions inflicted harm on both the Venezuelan people and the international law enforcement. Now, here are the key takeaways of the indictment. It frames narcotics trafficking as a state-enabled financial enterprise, not a standalone criminal operation. That financial flows are central to the case and rely on traditional mechanisms, not cryptocurrency. That cryptocurrency matters because of Venezuela's economic collapse and sanctions pressure, not because it is charged in the indictment. And finally, the forward-looking risk lies at the intersection of entrenched criminal networks and alternative financial rails. So basically, Venezuela's parallel financial system creates conditions where digital assets could increasingly be layered onto traditional laundering methods over time. What is important to note, people, is that the superseding indictment does not describe a conventional drug cartel operating alongside the state. It basically advances a theory that the Venezuela government itself was transformed into a protective environment for trafficking and allied criminal organizations. In the document itself, the prosecutors state that Venezuela became a safe haven for drug traffickers operating within and across its borders. Now, perhaps in another video, I can go into the intricacies of how the circular flow of money worked according to the indictment. And it included family patronage. It included, cartel, different personnel in the Caribbean. I'm telling you, the thing was structured, organized, and seriously deep. But for now, we're going to focus on the fact that Caribbean individuals, people within our islands who have been facilitating this trafficking and earning from it, they are at risk. They are the next target, in fact. Now, take a look at this post. Yes, this post from Azzuddin Mohammed himself. So on his Team Mohammed's page, he posted these pictures of the current president of Guyana and other PPP personnel being very chummy-chum with the Venezuelan president. Mighty God of Daniel. So the man I'll tag the U.S. Department of State Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. He tagged the Homeland Security of the U.S. He tagged the Embassy of Guyana, United States Department of Justice. Yawa bear things. According to him, Caribbean politicians are implicated in Maduro's criminal charges. Who is cozy with him? And he tagged them. The man just choose war, no peace. In come up brawling and in post this and in page. So Guyana, he putting you on the map for investigation. I'm telling you. So, as I said, a lot of people are feeling the discomfort and the pinch. It was interesting to see how the Trinidadian Prime Minister quickly disassociated herself to distance herself from the U.S. military strikes in Venezuela that led to Maduro's capture. Because remember, Venezuela has been for some time accusing Trinidad and Tobago in taking part in the U.S. seizure of oil tankers, right? So she is quickly trying to do that. But now, this is 7 hours ago, the Trinidad PM is being linked to the Maduro drug case. And there seems to be some kind of talk about the possibility of Trinidad being implicated in this indictment, right? However, she seems to be keeping a very cool head about matters, claiming that, listen, Trinidad is not involved and citizens need not to be bothered. According to Trinidad's Prime Minister, when it comes to the dragon gas deal being returned again, given the ousting of Maduro, she claims that the dragon gas is the property of the Venezuelan people. And whenever they choose a leader through free and fair democratic elections, that leader will make a decision on dragon gas. She also said that Trinidad and Tobago does not covet Venezuelan property and that they have never and never will. They will work with what they possess and endeavor to build on it. When it comes to the fact that politicians across Caribbean territories might be exposed, her response was she's not surprised. As the story continues to unfold, she has no doubt that many respectable and celebrated people across all sectors of society will be exposed. So Madame told the line, she not to, get caught up. And she go like say, have nothing to do with Trinidad, my loves. So let us see how it all unravels. Because, listen, names are going to be named and those who are unnamed are going to be uncovered. Corruption, corruption, corruption. A whole heap of people that you see are floss. A whole heap of politicians you see living way above their means and their salaries. Things going to come out the bag. And I don't think any island is exempt from this. Right? Yes, I don't think so. So, on brace on yourself and let us see how this thing evolves in the near future, because Trump is going to make sure that it's wrapped up quick and fast, right? So that hopefully the Venezuelan people can move on with their lives. But I can assure you it's not going to be the life that they expect. Because you see, when it comes to Americans going in to take your resources, any card can play. Anyway, guys, if you have made it this far into the video, do not forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And if you are new, click that bell so you're notified every time I drop a video. This is your girl, Head Teacher K, and I'm out.